Hello, my name's Steve Pretty. I'm a musician, performer and composer from London, and welcome to my podcast, Steve Pretty on the Origin of the Pieces. This is the show that helps you to hear, understand and enjoy music in new ways. Hello everyone, welcome back. It's been a few weeks since I spoke to you. Hope you've had a great few weeks. It's 2026. Here we go. It's lovely to be back in your ears and eyes. Once again, this podcast is available on YouTube and Spotify if you want to watch it. There's some fun visual stuff coming up in today's episode in particular, so do tune in. Thanks for all your feedback over the last few weeks. I've had some lovely comments about the last episode 36, where I dealt with how I made the My Friend Maisie theme, which is the theme song I wrote for the new Sky Kids TV show, My Friend Maisie, which was really fun to put together. I talked about pentatonic scales and all that stuff. Really enjoyed that one. So let me know if you've got any further feedback. And it was fun digging into a bit of music theory, a bit more than usual, but hopefully with a purpose, even for those of you who don't consider yourselves musicians. Because again, this podcast is for anyone who is slightly musically curious, whatever that means to you. And in fact, over Christmas, I did something called the 12 Days of Listenmas on my social media. You can probably already tell by the name of this show that I'm a big fan of bad puns when it comes to naming these sorts of things. So yeah, the 12 Days of Listenmas was where I spent 12 days. I did like a little sort of 1 to 3 minute video every day for 12 days, from Boxing Day till the 6th of January, taking people through how to understand music, how to listen to music in a deeper, more intricate and informative way. And I really enjoyed putting that little series together. And in fact, what I thought I would do just to kick off the year is to play the first 4 days of that. Now, I've cut out all of the introductory stuff, so I'm just running the 4 days into one another, jumping from one to the other. And the way I've sort of broken down over those 12 days how to approach thinking like a musician, hearing like a musician, which was kind of the goal of that little series, is to break music down into 3 parts. Now, these are somewhat arbitrary distinctions, but I think they can be quite helpful. The first of those is time. And that's what I'm going to do today, is play the little excerpts from the first 4 days, which are all to do with music in time. And for the next couple of episodes, I'm going to play the next chunks of how I think about music, which I think of as colour and then story. So that's coming up in the next couple of episodes. But to kick us off in 2026, here's my little guide on how to think and hear like a musician when it comes to music in time. Day 1 is the most important thing of all, and that is pulse and rhythm. Now, here's a little exercise you can do to practice the distinction between pulse and rhythm. As you're walking, think of your footsteps as the pulse. Now, the pulse is the literal beating heart of music. It's the absolute essence of music from almost everywhere in the world. And as you're walking, you can think of that as the pulse, and what you can then do is, over that scaffolding, you can construct a beautiful building, you can construct a beautiful rhythm. And what you do to do that is just subdivide or multiply these footsteps. So rather than 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you can go 1 and 2 and da, 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 da. Suddenly you've got a rhythm. You can mix that up. Da, 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 da. And that is rhythm, right? You've got pulse and then you've got rhythm laid over the top of it. It's a really fundamental thing to understanding music. Expanding out upon that, we can build that into a beat. I'm going to do the most basic beat with my slightly ropey beatboxing. It goes like this. So that's still dividing the beat up, just with 3 different sounds now. So, right, that's the subdivision. Now, what we can do for day 2 is keep those subdivisions, but slightly shift where they sit, so they're not sitting in such perfect mathematically placed spots, right? And what that gives us is something that feels very different, right? How about this? Those same 3 sounds, those same 3 rhythmic placements just slightly skewed over completely changes how we perceive those three sounds. Just by tiny shifts in the placement of them, we get what we call in music a groove or a feel. You might hear drummers talking about playing in the pocket or outside the pocket, and that's what that means. It's just slightly shifting where those notes land, and it can completely change our perception of music. That's the only thing we've changed. Just to illustrate that once more. We are a pattern recognition based species. We love finding patterns in everyday life. It's the reason that you can see faces in all sorts of unexpected places, is because our brain's constantly trying to see patterns in the world around us, and that is as true for music as it is for our visual senses. So I'm back out walking today because walking is a great way of practicing your pulse and rhythm and deepening your understanding of music. So every footstep I'm taking, that's going to be my pulse. Boom, 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 boom. Over the top of that, I'm going to build a rhythm. What I would like you to do, if you can tap along, you can clap along, or if you're somewhere you don't want to make noise, just tap your fingers like this so that you can physicalise it. It's very important to physicalise it when you're thinking about rhythm and pulse. That's what musicians do all the time. Here we go. Here's a little pattern for us. Keep that going. What happened there, almost certainly, was when I started dropping beats out or slightly tweaking that pattern, your brain carried on with the pattern it was doing. You were still tapping or clapping that. And as I changed it, something goes on in your brain where there's a kind of little dopamine hit, tiny little dopamine hit as I deviate from that pattern. But that dopamine hit wouldn't exist were it not for the expectation we had set up. Here's a pattern, and then we deviate from it, right? So much of what we do as musicians is exactly this, playing around with expectation, setting up a pattern and then either sticking to it, in other words, fulfilling the expectations of the listener, or subverting it and changing it. And because we are a pattern forming species, because our brains are wired to work that way, that slight tweak gives us that tiny little buzz. And as we start to put the bigger framework of music together, how to listen to music, how to conceptualize music over the next few days, that idea of pattern recognition, which in its purest form exists in rhythm, I would say, is really, really vital. A little exercise today, it's going to involve clapping, so you can either clap out loud, or if you need to be quiet somewhere, you can just tap your fingers like this against each other. Really, really recommend doing something physical because it helps you internalize this sense. Now I'm going to clap at a certain point, I'm going to cut out, but I want you to carry on. Now, I don't know if you were with me when I came back in. This speaks to something really, really important about how we understand music, and that is a sense of shared time. Shared time is something that happens both for music makers, whether we're playing or writing music, but it also happens very importantly for listeners, right? When you're actively listening, even to be honest, when you're passively listening, that sense of time will be going through your head whether you know it or not. And so when we're thinking about shared time, we can think about it, obviously if we've got a drummer in a band, it's pretty clear where the time is. Very often the drummer will lay down the beat, but really as musicians on a stage, it's all of us who've got responsibility for shared time. We all try and lock in together. Yes, often the drummer is the person who's really driving that, but really everyone on stage playing will be thinking about this sense of shared time in some form or other. In an orchestra or a classical setting, it's often a little bit different because the pulse is often pulled around a lot more than it is in sort of rhythm-based music. So that's why, particularly in a big orchestra, you've got a conductor. That is because you will need someone to kind of anchor that sense of collective time because it's being stretched and compressed in that way. I think this is really, really deep in our history when we're thinking about something called entrainment. Now, this is a concept which basically means that we lock in to something as a group. Now, a really good example about this is rowing. So if you think back to Viking longboats or whatever, everyone would need to pull together. And that sense of entrainment would often
can be accompanied or even driven by a drummer. Another really good example is the dole drum from the Punjab. Now that is a two-headed drum, and it will be played in the fields, in the paddy fields, for picking rice, right? And that would entrain the people who are picking the rice to do it efficiently so that they could speed up the drum, and that would make them pick faster because we just lock into those beats, right? Then of course what happens is the dole becomes the cornerstone of Punjabi music because that beat can be co-opted for entertainment purposes as well. So this is a super deep idea that goes back to the very roots of music, entrainment and a sense of shared time.
There we go. So that's my first few days of the 12 days of Listenmas about music in time. I hope you found that interesting or useful. I really can't recommend enough the thing about walking, using your footsteps as pulse, and then thinking about rhythm over the top of it. That really changed the way I approached learning music and thinking about music myself, because what it means is you don't need to play an instrument to practice understanding music in this deeper way, right? Playing an instrument is an incredible thing, and I urge everyone to do it, but it's not necessary to get more out of music, right? So just walking along, you can get that sense of like, okay, there's the pulse, there's the divisions or the multiplications of that pulse, and then you can start thinking about rhythm, and it will make you a deeper listener and maybe a better dancer, who knows. Now, talking of physicalizing pulse and rhythm, today's guest embodies that in every sense pretty perfectly, because today's guest is the amazing multi-instrumentalist and percussionist Aluá Nascimento from Brazil. Now, Aluá was a guest at my Wilton's Music Hall show back in 2025. And speaking of Wilton's Music Hall, now is a good time to mention that in a few days' time, I am back at Wilton's Music Hall on the 24th of January. There's just the last few tickets remaining. I've got those two shows, don't forget. One for families and kids in the afternoon at 2 p.m. and then the standard one for mainly for adults or for older kids from 7 p.m. in the evening. It's going to be a really, really fun day. We've got the Dan Spanner Big Band, very interesting band of 16 musicians, saxes, trumpets, trombones, rhythm section, and Dan, who is a fascinating character, an ex-circus performer. He was one of the original kind of Glastonbury circus crew, but he's also very involved in protest music, Extinction Rebellion and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to dig into not only the history of the big band, but also the idea of protest music and what you can do as an instrumentalist to try and help change the world, which Dan spends a lot of his time campaigning for and is very active in. So it's going to be a really, really great afternoon and evening with that. And of course, we've also got an amazing DJ who is 11 years old. I got it wrong. I said she was 10 in the last episode. She's actually 11, but she's going to be playing a drum and bass set, and I'm going to be talking to her about how a 10-year-old, 11-year-old gets into DJing drum and bass and jungle. I saw her at a festival last summer. I was really enjoying the set. Didn't know anything about who was on or whatever. Quite heavy jungle and drum and bass set. I was having a great time, and then I looked up and thought, hold on a minute, is that like a young girl in the DJ booth? And sure enough, I think she played a 3-hour set that night at this festival and absolutely smashed it out of the park. And so off the back of that, I thought I have to get in touch with her. And so sure enough, DJ Steady is joining me at Wilton's Music Hall along with the Dan Spanner Big Band. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, that's on the 24th of January. If you hear this in time, there's the last few tickets remaining for that. So do come along to London, Wilton's Music Hall. I think probably the most beautiful venue in the country for that. I have got another Wilton show later in the year as well, which isn't on sale yet, but I'll be talking about when it is. So yeah, as usual, sign up to my mailing list. If you go to originofthepieces.com, you can find all of that information and sign up to the mailing list and the Patreon and everything from there. Anyway, back to today's episode. So yeah, this is an interview and a performance that I recorded last year at Wilton's Music Hall with Aluá Nascimento. And we started off the whole show with me and Aluá playing a little duet. Aluá on the pandeiro, which is a kind of little Brazilian tambourine, amazingly expressive little instrument, and me on the trumpet playing the beautiful song Brazil. So let's kick off with that. So Aluá is an absolutely extraordinary musician. This interview takes in lots of different instruments, including his own body, which is what it kicks off with. But I wanted in this episode to just play a little bit more live music than usual, because a lot of the stuff that I did with Aluá at Wilton's was musical, was live music, as well as the little bit of chat. So yeah, a bit more music than usual in this episode. I think this is maybe more of an entertaining noises episode where we dig into the instruments, the many different instruments that Aluá plays, but it's also a bit of a genre tombola where we're essentially looking at some different genres of Brazilian music. We touch on lots of different areas of Brazilian music. For those asking, by the way, where the genre tombola is, I am going to start making some more tracks this year. It's been quite busy with other things, but lots of deep dives into obscure genres coming your way. But meanwhile, I'm going to hand back over to Aluá back in January 2025 at Wilton's Music Hall, playing his own body. Incredible. What about it, Aluá? Amazing, man. Let's get you a mic. That's it. So we met back in the autumn, and we did a festival together over the summer. Although we didn't actually meet at this festival, and there was a kind of rap party for this festival. And I got introduced to you by a mutual friend, and she said, "Oh, you must meet. I think you guys would really get on." And then turns out that at the time I was working on a thing for a TV show that. And I thought, I really want some body percussion in this. But I was sort of, there's cut to me in my studio kind of going, for hours trying to sort of make body percussion noises really badly and then trying to manipulate them in the computer. And then I met Aluá. It was like, wait, you're a full-time professional body percussionist. I'm literally writing a score right now that needs body percussion. So that week, you then came in and we had an amazing day recording you doing all sorts of incredible sounds. Steve back in the studio, and I'm going to cut back to that session that I did with Aluá in this very same studio back in November 2024. So here's a little taste of what we got up to. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Love it, man.
Thank you. And I've got other ideas as well.
Yeah.
Something like...
Yeah. Definitely the mouth thing I think is great. I think that's really nice and playful. I want to, I want to get the score as like playful as possible.
Yeah.
So you're from Brazil. Presumably your training and stuff was there, was it?
Well, it's a long story, but quite a short. I was part of the show Stomp. Have you heard about Stomp? Here we go. If you don't know, Stomp was on until 3 years ago. And so Stomp was created by Luke and Steve from Brighton. No, this is one, another Steve. This was back in 1991. I joined the show in 2014, and I used to do shows every single day, not far from here, in the Ambassadors Theatre, for 2 years. From 8 to 10 shows per week for 2 years. That's what I did. So all this training come from Stomp and also Barbatuques, because I come from a family of musicians, all percussionists. My father was a percussionist. He's a percussionist. I'm going to play a tune composed by my father, Aluá Nascimento. And my mother now, she retired and she joined the band. She's part of, she's also a professional musician. My grandmother was a percussionist as well. And she used to play the plate. Yes, a plate with a knife. That was her instrument. So that's pretty much how I got into Stomp. But anyway.
But I find that so interesting, the plate with a knife, and you're playing just what's your body right there.
Yes.
We were talking earlier about shells and adapting what nature gives you to in musical ways, and I find it really interesting that the body is the most sort of elemental way of doing that, and you don't have to just sing with it. You can do all of this other amazing stuff you do. But also the thing with banging a plate, or again when I was in Morocco, they have these kind of castanetti things.
Yeah, it looks like some spoons.
It does, and spoons is another thing.
Yes.
So yeah, the spoons is. I'm sure there's been many spoon players in this very hall because it's very much a Cockney thing. But also the Appalachian musicians use spoons. All sorts of musicians all over the world use spoons. And I think it's that really interesting thing of using what you have to create amazing music. Exactly. And rhythm. It doesn't matter whether you've got the sort of fanciest drum kit in the world or the fanciest tabla or whatever it is. You can if the music kind of comes out through whatever you've got. Yes. And a lot of the instruments that you play are relatively. I mean, I might be wrong, but are relatively simple to make. They're not complicated. Nope. They're made from mainly natural things with a couple of, they're not sort of machine made or they're made handmade. And that's, well, I mean, have you got any thoughts on those instruments and how they evolved in Brazilian culture?
We were influenced by the people who got slaved when sent to Brazil to work as slaves. And they couldn't practice, they couldn't do any martial art, and they couldn't play. They could play, but they couldn't do much, right? They were like treated as slaves. But what they were doing, so they were doing things out of nothing, out of like tins, like whatever they have in front of them, like stones, whatever they have, like the berimbau came from Africa as well. I'm going to play the berimbau very soon. And so all these little things, so we also influenced the food as well. So we've got feijoada. If you haven't tried feijoada is the black bean. And it's the rest, all the masters do have the food, and then all the leftover was transformed into feijoada. And now people, feijoada. But feijoada was, was the leftover from the masters. And then the people in Brazil, they make feijoada. It's the same thing with music. And so I was training capoeira as well. Have you heard about capoeira? Okay, if you don't know what capoeira is a type of martial art from Brazil. But again, the people were not allowed to do any martial art, right? But they were allowed to dance. So what happened was, they kind of used the dance, these guys, the martial art into dance, in order to practice. And they have like the berimbau, there was no communication in terms of vocal communication, so all about instruments. So the instrument I'm going to show you, the berimbau, is the codes, right? If the masters would be arriving, they could hear the horses coming, they would change the rhythm. So the the martial art would become dance. Okay, so for the masters, they were dancing. As soon as the masters would go away, they would turn that martial art, or that dance into martial art. You see, I still even get confused about martial art, dance, and music. So it's that mixture of different art forms. So that's what capoeira is. And I was born into capoeira. My parents, they met each other. They were doing capoeira and bloop, they match, There was that's how it happened. And so I came into that world of capoeira. So that was my life until I was 14, 15 years old. I wanted to be like a master of capoeira. And then somehow I turned like a musician, became a musician, but it's all connected. And that's why I took part in Stomp, because in Stomp you can add that dance and music. I remember when I go out to the theater, people, oh, nice dancing, nice dancing. I was like, well, I'm not dancing, but well, thank you very much. And I was surrounded by dancers. And yeah, that's what it is. And yeah, can I play a little bit of the berimbau for you? Yeah? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the berimbau, which is that instrument that looks like a bow and arrow. And it's from Africa. The people who got slaved, they took the berimbau with them, and we in Brazil changed the way of playing the berimbau. Okay? So I'm gonna play the berimbau the traditional way, and then I'm gonna play one of the first albums that my father did, was called Berimbau Blues. That's called the berimbau, calabash, little stone, a caxixi, which is a shaker, a bamboo stick, and just one metal string. That's the berimbau. Are you up for some body percussion? Yes? Yes? Very simple, very easy, okay? So, what I'm gonna teach you is one of my solos I did for my audition for Stomp when I passed. So, I'm gonna teach you a rhythm from the northeast of Brazil called baião. And baião goes like this. I'm gonna show you very quickly and I'm gonna teach you how to do it. That's it. Chest, click and click. Chest, click and click. Here we go. Easy. Let's move on. Chest, click, click, chest. 1, 2, 3, go. Chest, click, click, chest. 1, 2, 3, go. Easy? Yeah. Let's move on. Chest, click, click, chest, click, click, and here we go. Chest, click, click, chest, click, and click. Aha, here we go. Here we go. If you count chest, click, click, chest, click, and click, and chest, click, click, chest, click, click. That's baião. I was playing that really fast. It's the same rhythm. Now you know baião. If you go to Brazil, now you can say yeah. And baião is very popular in Brazil. It's like samba, you know. So we're gonna be playing that one. Shall we add that one? Just relax your jaw. Very, gentle. You're gonna tap. That's it. Relax your jaw and so chest, click, click, chest, click, click. Chest, click, click, chest, click, click. Chest, click, click, chest, click, click. And chest. Is it enough or should we add some more? This one, let's just stay with that one, okay? So, you're gonna be playing baião and you're gonna be playing the kalimba. This is a thumb piano. And the tune we're gonna play is called Trenzinho Caipira by Heitor Villa-Lobos, which is a very important composer from Brazil. And let's see how it sounds. Andando pela serra, andando pela serra sem parar, no ar. Well done, everyone. Great, yes.
Aluá Nascimento, give it up. Incredible. That was amazing, man. So there we go, Aluá Nascimento. It's going to be links in the show notes to his work, including lots of workshops and things he does. So do check him out and look him up. I highly, highly recommend his work. He's a lovely guy and an incredible musician, playing that huge range of instruments. That's about all we've got time for today. The theme is by my daughter and me. It's called Farting on the Sofa, and if you want to know why, you can go back a few episodes and find out. I'm still working on getting the original podcast theme back. That's the theme that I wrote with Angelique Kidjo and own the copyright to, but somehow still got a copyright strike on YouTube. Isn't the music industry fun? So I'm still working on getting that back. Meanwhile, do come to Wilton's Music Hall if you hear this in time, 24th of January, or look out for the next one that's going on sale very soon. And go to my website, originofthepieces.com, for all of the back episodes of the show. There's loads more resources there, transcripts, videos, all sorts of stuff, as well as, of course, my Patreon, which is going to get a bit of an injection of life in 2026. We're back on track now for more regular episodes after a little break for Christmas and New Year, so look out for the next episode in a couple of weeks' time, and meanwhile, stay musically curious. I'll see you next time. Bye.